The radar screens erupted at 0517 hours. 60 contacts, not 10, not 20, 60 Iranian speedboats materializing from the pre-dawn darkness of the Strait of Hormuz, like a plague of steel and diesel fury. They came in formation, bows aimed directly at the USS Abraham Lincoln, the most powerful warship ever to cut through these contested waters. No radio contact, no warning, just 60 Boghammer and Siraj-class fast attack craft accelerating to combat speed. Their engines screamed defiance as they carved white wakes across the black Gulf waters. This was not a probe. This was not harassment. This was a full-scale coordinated assault designed to overwhelm, penetrate, and destroy. The Iranian Revolutionary Guard crews manning those boats believed their commanders' promises that speed and numbers would crash through American defenses like a tidal wave through a sand castle. They had trained for months, memorized attack patterns, practiced evasive maneuvers. What they did not know was that they were about to face one of the most sophisticated naval strike groups ever assembled on the open ocean. The tactical action officer aboard the Lincoln did not hesitate. At 0518, his voice cut through the Combat Information Center like a blade. Launch alert, fighters. Get the helicopters airborne. Battle stations. The carrier's flight deck exploded into controlled chaos. 2 FA-18 Super Hornets screamed down the catapults, afterburners igniting the dawn with twin pillars of fire. Seconds later, 2 MH-60R Seahawk helicopters clawed into the sky, their door gunners already checking weapons as they climbed to attack altitude. From 15,000 feet, the Super Hornet pilots had a clear view of the swarm. 60 boats arranged in a modified chevron formation, closing fast. The lead pilot's targeting pod locked onto the formation, feeding real-time imagery to every screen in the strike group. Lincoln Falcon 1, I have visual on 60 hostile contacts inbound your position. They are carrying rockets and heavy weapons. This is no drill. The carrier group commander's response was ice cold, weapons free, engage and destroy. At 0519, the Iranian formation split like a living organism adapting to threat. 40 boats maintained their charge toward the Lincoln, 12 peeled toward the destroyer USS Mason, 8 accelerated toward the USS Thomas Hudner. They were moving at 70 knots now, some of the newer boats hitting 75. Bow wakes brilliant in the strengthening light. Each speedboat bristled with weapons, rocket launchers on improvised mounts, heavy machine guns, possibly anti-ship missiles. The boats spread wider, making themselves harder to target. The Revolutionary Guard crews were disciplined, splitting the American defenses, forcing simultaneous engagement across multiple vectors. But the Americans were already inside their decision cycle. The Super Hornets dove from altitude like hunting birds. Falcon 1 rolled inverted at 8,000 feet and pulled his nose toward the ocean. The targeting pod locked on the lead elements of the swarm. At 6 miles out, he fired. An AGM-65 Maverick missile dropped from the wing pylon. Its motor ignited and it accelerated rapidly. The infrared seeker found the hottest target in the formation, a Siraj-class boat with twin diesel engines at maximum output. The missile impacted the engine compartment at tremendous speed. The boat erupted in a violent explosion. An orange-red fireball mushroomed upward. Debris rained across a wide radius. 2 nearby boats were struck by shrapnel, their hulls punctured, crews diving into the water as their vessels began sinking. Falcon 2 engaged seconds later. Another Maverick, another direct hit. The second boat disintegrated in flame and twisted metal. The Iranian formation wavered for the first time. They had expected resistance. They had not expected destruction from 6 miles away. But the swarm kept coming. Revolutionary Guard commanders shouted over radio frequencies, demanding their crews press the attack. 40 boats tightened formation and accelerated toward the Lincoln. They were 5 miles out now, then 4. Even with 2 boats destroyed, 58 remained. The Seahawk helicopters descended to 800 feet and spread wide, positioning themselves on the flanks of the swarm. The door gunners opened fire at 2,000 yards. M240 machine guns roared. 7.62 millimeter rounds poured down range in sustained bursts. Tracers arced across the water. The gunners walked their fire across the nearest boats, punching holes in fiberglass hulls, shattering windshields, tearing through crew compartments. One boat veered wildly. Its helmsman struck. Another lost power as rounds severed fuel lines and destroyed the engine. A third boat caught fire, flames spreading rapidly across the deck. The Iranian formation was losing vessels, but it continued advancing. 3 miles out now, then 2.5. They were entering the outer engagement envelope of the carrier group's medium-range weapons. Aboard the USS Thomas Hudner, the weapons officer locked the Mk-38 Bushmaster chain gun onto the 8 boats charging his position. At 2,500 yards, he opened fire. The 25mm cannon began firing in controlled bursts. High explosive rounds stitched across the water, each impact throwing up spray. The gunner adjusted aim, leading the targets. The first sustained burst connected. A speedboat's bow shattered as rounds penetrated the hull in rapid succession. The boat flipped forward and capsized. The second boat attempted evasive maneuvers, zigzagging at maximum speed, but the computer-controlled targeting system tracked every move. A controlled burst walked fire from stern to bow. The boat shuddered under repeated impacts, slowed, and began taking on water. The Cyclone-class patrol ship Shamal engaged simultaneously. Her Bushmaster locked onto boats attempting to flank the formation. The 25mm cannon thundered, sending explosive rounds across 2,200 yards of open water. The first boat absorbed multiple hits before its fuel tank ignited. Flames engulfed the vessel in seconds. The second boat turned hard to evade, but turned directly into the Bushmaster's firing arc. 6 rounds impacted within 2 seconds. The fiberglass hull could not withstand military-grade explosive ammunition. The boat broke apart and sank within seconds. The Super Hornets circled above, selecting targets systematically. Falcon 1 released another AGM-65 Maverick at 5 miles. The missile tracked perfectly, slamming into a boat laden with rocket launchers. The secondary explosion was severe as the boat's own ordnance detonated, creating a fireball that consumed 2 nearby vessels. Falcon 2 fired moments later, his missile impacting a command boat distinguishable by its larger antenna array. The boat disintegrated, taking tactical coordination with it. But 40 boats still surged forward, 2 miles out now, 90 seconds from weapons range. The Iranian crews could see the Lincoln clearly, a massive gray wall of steel dominating the horizon. Some boats began erratic maneuvering, trying to complicate targeting solutions. Others accelerated harder, pushing their engines beyond safe limits in a desperate sprint. The destroyer USS Mason joined the battle. Her forward 5-inch gun rotated smoothly, elevating to the calculated firing solution. The gun captain gave the order. The 5-inch naval gun fired, the concussion rippling across the water. The shell arced through the air and detonated 20 feet above a cluster of 3 speedboats. The air burst showered the boats with shrapnel. All 3 veered off course, hulls punctured, crews wounded. 1 boat slowed to a halt. The other 2 maintained speed but trailed smoke and debris. Mason fired again and again, each shell precisely targeted. Each detonation forced the formation into further disarray. The Seahawks repositioned, flying low over the water. At 1,200 yards, the pilots had clear shots with their AGM-114 Hellfire missiles. The first Seahawk fired. The laser-guided missile accelerated toward a speedboat, attempting to circle wide around the defensive screen. Impact followed almost instantly. The boat erupted in a violent explosion. The shaped charge warhead overwhelmed the thin fiberglass structure. The second Seahawk fired another Hellfire. Another direct hit. Another boat destroyed. But 30 boats still advanced. 1 mile out now. 60 seconds from potential launch range. The Revolutionary Guard crews prepared their weapons, waiting for the moment. They never reached it. At 1,800 yards, the phalanx systems activated. 4 CIWS mounts across the Lincoln, Mason, and Hudner rotated toward the incoming swarm. Radar tracked targets. Computers calculated firing solutions in milliseconds. The systems engaged automatically. The sound was overwhelming. 4 6-barreled Gatling guns fired simultaneously, each system releasing 4,500 rounds per minute. The combined firepower created a dense stream of tungsten projectiles. The lead boats hit that wall and disintegrated. Hull sections shattered. Engine compartments ignited. Fuel tanks detonated in rapid succession. Boats that had been racing forward became expanding clouds of debris and flame. The failing systems tracked, engaged, destroyed. Target after target fell. Some boats attempted evasive turns, but the computer-controlled systems anticipated every move. 10 boats destroyed in seconds. 15 shortly after. The Iranian formation was not merely halted, it was overwhelmed. A few boats attempted desperate final runs. The phalanx engaged at 1,200 yards, then 1,000, then 800. None closed further. The Super Hornets continued circling above, selecting targets among boats attempting to flee. Falcon 1 released his final Maverick at a cluster running at maximum speed toward Iranian waters. The explosion engulfed multiple vessels. Falcon 2 strafed fleeing boats with his 20mm M61 Vulcan cannon, firing sustained bursts. Shells tore through hulls with devastating effect. At 0526, 8 minutes after the engagement began, silence returned. No Iranian boat remained within effective range. 18 boats were destroyed completely. 22 were disabled, sinking or abandoned. 20 retreated at maximum speed, trailing smoke and damage. No American casualties were reported. No American ships sustained damage. The Abraham Lincoln maintained course and speed throughout the engagement. The Seahawks descended to wave top level, scanning for survivors in the water. Dozens floated in life vests. The helicopters marked positions and relayed coordinates to Iranian Coast Guard vessels in accordance with maritime law. The wreckage told the story. Boats destroyed by Maverick missiles, others shattered by phalanx fire, others disabled by 5-inch guns and Bushmaster cannons. The Revolutionary Guard had deployed its swarm tactic, 60 boats coordinated in a direct assault. They had trained, planned, and committed. The engagement lasted 8 minutes. For regional geopolitics, the implications were immediate. The Strait of Hormuz, through which a significant portion of global oil flows, had long been viewed as vulnerable to asymmetric tactics. This clash demonstrated the scale of modern naval defensive capability. The Abraham Lincoln continued south through the Strait of Hormuz without altering course. Operations resumed later that day. The strait remained open under the protection of layered naval defense systems.